Manx Radio Sport.
Welcome along then to Manx Radio Saturday Sport Classified for Saturday the 23rd of November 2024, in a day disrupted by Storm Bert. We've got 2 football results to bring you and 4 hockey results to bring you in the next hour. No rugby today. We've given Dave Christian the evening off. Tony Mepham will be here to look at football, and we'll also be doing the Plum Properties Railway Cup draw. And Ben Cunningham here to look at hockey. I promised you as well the FC Isle of Man result. I can tell you that game in the North West Counties Football League Premier Division has finished 3-3. The Ravens fighting back from 3-1 down at half-time. With 2 second-half goals, 3-3 that game has finished. And we'll start off, as always, with the classified results. And as I mentioned, just the 2 games in football today, one of which was in the Canada Life Men's Premier League. That was finished St Mary's 6, Union Mills 0. And the second fixture in local football today, Arden and Druggan Limited Combination 2, finished Castletown 2, Douglas Athletic 0. All the other games across the Canada Life Premier League, the Arden and Druggan Limited Division 2 and the Canada Life Combination 1 and Arden and Druggan Limited Combination 2 were postponed due to the weather. And we'll chat to Tony Mepham a little bit later on and find out exactly what they're planning on doing with those fixtures. Turning our attention to hockey in the Mixed Premier League, it finished Backers A3, Vikings A1. The remainder of the games in the Mixed Premier League were postponed. All games in Mixed Division 1 were postponed, as were all the games in Mixed Division 2. In Mixed Division 3, I can tell you the only game played finished Ramsey Rookies 1, Backers Mixed Books 3, and we are awaiting 2 results in the Mixed Under-15s League. Just gone 5 past 5 then, so it has been a storm-affected day. No rugby today at all. There were due to be several fixtures today. And we'll just recap those games that should have been played. All these games were postponed for either weather-related issues or travel-related issues. So the games we should have seen in rugby today were Regional 2 North West, Douglas against Eccles, Women's NC2 North South, Littleborough against Vagabonds Ladies, and in the Cheshire Bowl, Aldershot against Southern Nomads. And there's also due to be a friendly. Ramsey were away in a friendly against the Wigan Second 11, but all of those games were postponed. So no Dave Christian this evening. Tony Mepham has gone to find our Railway Cup Plum Properties guest to do the draw with a bit later on. So what we'll do then is, if I pass that back to you, Ben, we'll start off with hockey this week. And you were out in the cold for us this afternoon. The one game we managed to cover in the Mixed Premier League, but it was the important game to get in, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was Backers A against Vikings A. That went the way of Backers A 3-1 win. Martha Broderick with 1 and Jamie Brown with 2. And then for Vikings A, it was John Verrill, but the result that Backers A needed. And
that means and confirms Backers A as champions. Was that expected at the beginning of the season? Is that the way you thought this was going to go?
We knew it was going to be close, and it's lived up to its name, definitely.
Okay, all the rest of the games in the Mixed Premier League were postponed, as they were in Mixed Division 1, Mixed Division 2 and Mixed Division 3. We did get the 25-4 game underway, Ramsey Rookies against Backers Mixed Books, finishing 3-1 to the Mixed Books.
Yep, and I've just got the scorers just come in, and they were Dan Stevenson, Rufus Whaley and Maya Stevenson. So gives Backers Mixed Books good win there over Ramsey to finish their mixed campaign off, their first mixed campaign off on a high.
Okay, and the Under-15s League, the game at QE2 between Belkires and Backers was postponed, as all the games were in the west of the island today. But I do have a result. I don't know if you've got the details on this one. Ben, Vikings 3, Harlequins 3, half-time 2-1 to Vikings. Have you got the details? I've got the scorers here.
Yeah, Theo Roberts with 2 and Henry Stewart with 1.
That's correct. Player of the match, Heathen Gibbs on the left wing, apparently.
Yeah, we're just waiting on Harlequins scorers.
Yes, waiting those details, and also waiting a result from Castletown Sabres against Castletown Sharks. Unless
just
you've had
got that in, and that was a 3-3 draw. So the Under-15s League, both games that have happened today were 3-3 draws. For Sabres, it was Charlie Valerga, Jake Trummers, and Florence Helson. And then for the Sharks, it was Henny Cummin and Christopher Crompton-Harvey with 2 goals.
Okay, and obviously this disruption today, I know they managed to get the game to decide the mixed Premier League, but this has caused some disruption to the fixture list. Presumably there is something looking at being resolved as to how we get the fixtures in that they need to be played to finish final standings in these leagues.
Yeah, so there's still 2 massive games to be played in Mixed Division 3 that were meant to happen first thing this morning between Harlequins A, Backers D, and Castletown Cosney against Vikings E. They were all meant to be happening this morning. However, obviously the weather put pay to them. So the word is that all the fixtures are looking to be rescheduled. And as soon as we can get details out, we will get them out. As you can imagine, today's not been the most smooth running day. It's been a bit chaotic. And yeah, just, hats off to all the MHA today, because really they have been under pressure today to make decisions, and they've made the right decisions. Obviously, there will be people out there that will probably be thinking, well, I don't think they have, but they've all really stuck their necks out and said, no, we're going to follow the guidelines, which the police were saying not to travel and everything. And of course, this afternoon the weather improved, so we managed to get 4 games happen this afternoon, which was great. And I mean, the game that happened at the NSC, I was saying before to you off air, there was about 40 people down there, but I think it was just because they literally seen the message saying that the 2:00 game at the NSC was going to happen, so everyone just grabbed their coats, grabbed their thermal jackets and everything, and they went down to watch the game. But yeah, hats off to everyone at the MHA today for keeping it cool.
I think you're right. I think, at the end of the day, there's been a lot of pressure on the day. There's been a lot of decisions that had to be made. Some of them, I think, were quite clear-cut. You sent a photo to us earlier on of the pitch at QE2 at about 11 o'clock this morning.
The
Westdale
you needed
really
your kayak this morning to play on that pitch.
Yeah, the Westdale really took a battering. So some of those decisions were really clear-cut. But I think, like you say, from a safety point of view, it's important that the right decision is made. And, people want to, I understand people want to play, but, the safety is paramount at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Player safety and the umpires as well as paramount. And it will get the fixtures rescheduled one way or another. And hopefully everyone get one more game before we go into Christmas. And then after Christmas, we look at the men's and ladies league. But of course, next weekend we've got our big cup plate and bowl cup plate and bowl final at the NSC next weekend. So lots of action again next weekend if it is just at the NSC. But we'll wait and see how the fixtures all reschedule, because obviously we've got teams playing in the finals next week who won't be able to participate in their league games. So it's going to be a bit of a tough one, but I think the MHA will manage to rearrange all the fixtures.
Great. All right, Ben, thank you very much. And you get an early finish this evening as well.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Manx Radio Sport.
11 minutes after 5 o'clock on Manx Radio, Saturday Sport Classified, and we will move on to football. Tony, this is probably, apart from a weekend where we literally get nothing, and one of the biggest sort of decimations of the schedule I've seen in a long time in terms of weather. A lot of work ahead, I'm sure, on fixtures to get these things rearranged, but let's deal with the results we do have. The first one in the Canada Life Men's Premier League, finished St Mary's 6, Union Mills 0. You were down there this afternoon for that game at the Bowl.
Yeah, good game. First 45 minutes, I think Union Mills will want to forget, because they were 5-0 down. They were sort of, 2-0 down after nearly, about 10, 12 minutes. So it was a great show, I thought, by St Mary's, certainly in the first half. And there's no doubt about it when we come to the scorers who the star of the show was, and that was Mark Wolfenden. Well done, Wolfie, because, he plays in Masters football, so we know what age he roughly is. But today he rolled back the years, because some of his finishing was sublime. And one of the goals, it was just so well taken. First time effort, the ball came in and he just hit it. But Mark Wolfenden got 4 goals. Sam Gelling got 1. His was a good strike as well. Therese Thompson as well. But, Union Mills just couldn't get it together in the second half. They had a better half, but I think Ryan Kelly just realised that today was the day for St Mary's. And when you look at people like Harley Jackson playing in there, Sammy Gelling, you've got Mark Wolfenden, Carl Clark, Dan Hattersley was a second half substitute, so him and Mark Wolfenden up front, nightmare to deal with. But that's a great 3 points for St Mary's. as I touched on in commentary, St Mary's probably now are in a false position because player-wise, team-wise, just the whole shape about them, they're looking very, very strong indeed. And I think they can have a great second half to the season and probably decide who's going to win this championship because to me, it's a 3-horse race at the moment. I think it's Laxey, Peel and Ayr United. I just think Corinthians have still got a lot to offer, but there's a lot of good young players in there and just experience might just catch them out. But certainly St Mary's today on their showing are going to have a big, big say on where that trophy goes.
5-0 at half-time you mentioned there. Was that conditions playing into that? Or did St Mary's just sort of take their foot off in the second half? And
I think I'll give Ryan Kelly some credit here. I think it was down to Ryan, the manager of Union Mills, organising his team to try and nullify the strengths that St Mary's had. The problem is the strengths were 11 players, the keeper as well. You know, he looked so comfortable in there. And when you look at Daniel Christian, the goalkeeper for Union Mills, he hasn't played for, I think, 3 years. And he pulled off 2 or 3 good saves. And if it wasn't for some, if you like, not poor, but misdirected shots from St Mary's, that score could have been a lot higher indeed. It could have been well and truly into double figures. And that was a great display by St Mary's. And when you look at the players that they've got in there, Therese Thompson as well, he scored and worked ever so hard. And just right the way through, Josh Evans at the back, they looked so comfortable. The football was good. Frank Jones is in there with his leadership as well. And when you come across a team like that who play like they did in that 90 minutes, it's going to be very difficult for you to get anything. And that's what proved today for Union Mills.
Okay, so rest of the games in the Canada Life Men's Premier League were postponed due to weather conditions, as were they in Ardnern Drug and Division 2. Canada Life Combination 1 all also gone the way of the weather today, but we did get another game in the Ardnern Drug and Limited Combination 2. It finished Castletown 2, Douglas Athletic 0.
Yeah, and with Castletown, fair play, and I have to say, Nick Cowell, the referee today, phoned me up and said, is the game on? I said, yeah, phone them up, and he said it's on. They'll have a little look at it nearer the time. And then Nick was leaving from Laxey to officiate, and he said, is the game still on? I said, let me check. And they said, yeah, pitch is good. And fair play when Nick got down there, because I think he gave him a bit of space to, in comfort, to get down there on time. And he just looked at the pitch. He said it was fine. And Castletown, I touched base with them after the game and just said, what was it like? And they just said, we expected it to cut up a little bit, but it was absolutely superb. So credit to the groundsman who looked after that. We know what Castletown's pitch is like. It's very good when it's there's a lot of rain about. But certainly, I think a lot of clubs, Simon, this is why, sort of when you look at it up until this morning, we only had 2 games to rearrange. And neither of them were pitch conditions. One was the referee was ill, and another one was that it wasn't available to play the game. So we've been very, very fortunate. But there's a lot of good stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and I've just seen some pictures from Jonathan here next to me, who of Ramsey's pitch, and it's underwater. You look at sort of Peel. When you look at the hockey pitch that was down there, that was underwater. St John's was underwater. There's a lot of rain come down, and there's a lot of work got to be done in the next week or so to get them pitches fit for next week. And as you can see, that pitch there,
yeah, that's a lot of water.
That's a lot of water, So credit to everyone. I think it's one of those times where you just say the amount of time and effort you put into those pitches, and to get them looking like they do, credit to them big time.
So that's sort of across the board. Is it pitch conditions that affected all of these games today, or was there a consideration for travel and safety and that issue? As we talked about that with the hockey earlier on with Ben.
Yeah, to be fair, I discussed it this morning because I'm chairman of fixtures. I discussed it with the CEO, Lewis Qualtrough, what to do, and the police warning this morning was that limit the travel, and that was fair enough. But we just said let nature take its course, and let's have a look how many games are left on, and then we'll make that decision. The Bowl and with having St Mary's and Union Mills, the 2 Douglas clubs, so close enough. And the Castletown one we were a bit concerned about, but the information we had back was that traffic was moving smoothly down south, so the Douglas sides going into it would have been okay. And I think we made the right decision. Safety is paramount. We looked at the games on Wednesday night for the under-18s. They were travelling from all over the place, and we just said, no, we can't do this because it's icy. We'd never forgive ourselves if something happened. But with the weather forecast today improving from 12 o'clock onwards, we got it spot on for once. So, yeah, but, when you look back at the fixtures, I've done the fixtures now. This is my 40th year next year. And I've never been in this position before where I've only had 2 games to look to rearrange at the halfway stage of the season. We've had Railway Cups where the finals are normally being played on Boxing Day, being played over Easter. Mm-hmm. So that just shows you what we've had to deal with. And when you think of the flood, whatever year it was, 2014 was it, the big flood, third week in January, we were over 200 fixtures behind, and here we are, sort of coming to the end of November. Okay, we've picked up a few today, but before that, we only had 2 to go. That's incredible.
So I suppose, you're not really in a situation where fixture congestion is becoming an issue, but today has put a lot of fixtures back in the book that you're going to need to rearrange. Confident this will all be quite easy to sort, do you think, these ones that we've lost today?
Easy enough. We do the ECAP FA Cup draw next Saturday. So there's cup games on the 7th of January, so we'll have rearranged fixtures there. So I don't panic, get in there. We've got the Plum Properties Railway Cup semi-final games to be played in 2 weeks' time. We lose one fixture. I've been so lucky in that one as well, because 2 of the semi-finalists were playing each other. United's free week, and the only game, I think might be Ramsey and Corinthians, we might have to have a look at. But the semi-finals will go ahead on the 7th of December, and let's just hope, fingers crossed, that the weather's good on that day. But we still got plenty of time to get that in. It's paramount, Simon, for the sponsors, for football, and for the clubs, that we get that final on Boxing Day.
Okay, one other fixture to talk about today, Tony, was the FC Isle of Man game. They were in action at Pilkington, hoping to get a 7th straight win. It just wasn't quite to be, and I know they've probably had a really long day, the team travelling. They were obviously delayed. Yeah. Kickoff was postponed by, was it an hour or 2 hours, I think, in the end? I'm not quite sure. But it was a 3 o'clock kickoff in the end. They were 3-1 down at half-time, fought back to 3-3 again. Another show of character from the team, but is it a position they should be getting themselves in, really?
No, but it makes it interesting, doesn't it? Because last week they were 2-0 down and came back and won 3-2. Today they were 3-1 down at one stage and got it back to 3-3. So that's character. Away game, and with everything that's gone on today, can upset your organisation. I don't know if we're going to try and get a hold of Paul Jones. We'll try and maybe get in touch with him. I've got his number. But it's a great time for them at the moment, for FC Isle of Man. It keeps them in touch at the top of the table, and that's all they can do. And credit to them. And today I was surprised that they got away on the flight, because there's all sorts of flight cancellations this morning, and I think I was told that the first flight was out after 12, was it, or about 12 o'clock?
I think 12 o'clock they departed.
Yeah, 12 o'clock. So it doesn't help, and I've been in that situation with the senior men's and women's squad, where you fly away, not much time to prepare, and then suddenly you're on a park. But sometimes it actually goes well for you, because the nerves aren't there. You've been faffing around so much in the morning. It's just the food intake and just everything. The coach has to be organised better. But no, credit to them. And, they're back at home in a couple of weeks' time, and 2 games back at home just before Christmas. It's all looking very good for them.
And 19 points from 21. They're top of the form table still, despite not getting that win today. And they need to just carry that form on, really, don't they? Because we've seen this before. They have a really strong period, and then they drop some points away from home. They can keep this form going. They're in a really strong position come the end of the season. Definitely,
and I think, I don't know what it is, because they seem to start a little bit slow, and then they get going. And the night games are out the way midweek now, so they don't have to travel midweek. Then they have a good run, good performance at home will hopefully bring the bigger crowds back, because they need some more support. It's cost an absolute fortune to run this team, and they need our support. And you could just see, and they won't mind me saying it, that the numbers have dwindled down a little bit to watch, and I don't really understand why, because the football's good. It's exciting. Last week's was brilliant to watch. 2-0 down, not really playing badly, and then an inspired substitution of 3 people come on, and it just changed it a little bit. Today, 1 or 2 sort of injuries, which obviously made them a little bit weaker, but they do need our support, and it's a great way to spend a Saturday night. It's a cheap way to do it as well. If you're an adult, you go down. I know you've been down. You pay your £10. You go in, watch a game. You can grab a Chinese or whatever you want to do on the way home, and go and get warm. Job done. But it's our Isle of Man, if you like, team, and if you're a football fan, you should be supporting your island team. And it's a little bit of a plea, I think, to try and just help them along their way, because the costs that they incur are absolutely huge, and I'm glad that I've nothing to do with it, because I'd have sleepless nights trying to raise that sort of money, because it's a big ask. It really is.
We'd be crying if we lost it,
Oh,
wouldn't we?
Definitely, and that's quite interesting. Please bring Jogger in, Simon, because they've lost players as well from it, so it's affected them. But at the moment, they're so close to maybe getting promotion. The support would help them big time, Jogger.
Yeah, yes, we've lost players, but technically we never really had them, because Jamie Cole came back from travelling in university, and Higgins never really played for us after he came from Peel. So does it weaken us a bit? But actually it's been a godsend for Ramsey, because it's levelled the playing field. So whenever you used to have domination in Manx football, and Corinthians were just going to do it, weren't they? When FC Isle of Man, they were going to have a period of about 5 years of dominating, which happens in Manx football. It was all taken away because 6 players were taken away from Corinthians. But it's great for the next generation. It's something to aspire to be. Players have got themselves in the shop window and are now in the professional game elsewhere. What's not to like? I think there was probably a mistake, in the pricing of FC Isle of Man. You know, when you had to book on a Thursday, I think it was before a Thursday, so you had to make your decision on a Thursday. Yeah. So whether the weather's good or bad, I've paid, so I'm going to go. Whereas now, I think people leave it to the last minute, and if it's blowing a hoolie, they go, "Oh no, I don't fancy that."
Yeah, but it's all a great game, and it can be a family thing. Simon, I know you like football, and you'll take your son and daughter, but when I look at Alex Brinley, he hates sport, I think. He hates football.
I went to school with him. He hates sport.
Anything to do with exercise. And now suddenly it's a weekend vacation for him. He goes down with his wife. He goes down with his children. And now it's a right family expedition. And, Jogger's got, boys that are coming up to senior football now. And it's a great time to go down and just take your son and have a bit of a father-son time. And it's hard to put your finger on it, why it's gone wrong, because the football's good and the atmosphere is good.
The family side you touched on there is interesting, because I think it's a different level of aspiration for the kids growing up as well, to know that this is a team that is going away and is competing in the bigger pyramid, and obviously is now, should they choose to do it, eligible for the FA Cup and that type of thing. It's a different type of aspiration for 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds who are in the local football system at the moment.
Yeah. It'll take a while for infrastructure as well. How long's it been? Is this season 3 or 4? So season 4, if you think about it, you've got lots of different clubs come together, players from different clubs. So having an atmosphere and having a history, and do they have songs? Teams that have been around for 100 years, they know their songs and they know their history. It's quite pocketed in areas, so you'll have Russian over there and Corinthians over there. And I think over time, what it has done that's significantly positive is it's dragged people into the game that were never in the game.
Totally agree.
Never in local games.
Totally agree.
There's people in and around that club that no disrespect, they probably don't know me either, but I didn't know who they were. They're not involved with any local club. And now they're involved. That's brilliant. Yeah. Surely that, a sport bringing people together, family fun, like you say, and getting out of the house in the middle of the winter.
Yeah, and I think, what also is important is that it's your island team. So it's the Isle of Man for a start. It's football, so if you like football, you can go down and do it. And Jogger's absolutely spot on. I go down and I can see a lot of people down there and I think, I never see you at Manx football games. And I go round all the grounds. And then when you just speak to people, they just say, well, I went down and enjoyed it that much. I actually go down with mates now. And then we go for a couple of beers afterwards. And it's just to cheer them on. And, it's big money, Simon, to do it. They're not only paying for themselves to go away. They have to pay and put in a hotel. The team that come over and people
and the referees, isn't it?
And the referees or referee, and then people challenge that and say, "Well, why are they doing that?" Well, it was what
the
they
deal
had
to
to
get
do
in.
to get in. Correct.
I think it was about 450 grand they've spent in one. I saw the accounts getting on and off island. That's a crazy amount of money, but we should not lose it and we should support it throughout.
Definitely, 100%.
I think as well. Again, we've not even touched on the inbound economy advantage to this.
I was going to say that, but I thought for a sports show that would be pretty boring. but actually, the dollars that are spent, the pounds that are spent when people come here. And I don't know whether you follow like non-league, like Facebook groups and stuff. They talk about the FC support and the welcome that they had. You know, the Isle of Man hasn't really got a tourism outside of sport, between TT, Parish Walk, big sporting events, half marathon, marathon. Football's another one. So, you know, it's a bit of a niche for the Isle of Man. People are coming here. I think, was it Bury that was stuck here for quite a few days? There was quite a few supporters stuck.
Vauxhall.
And they loved their time.
Vauxhall, was it?
I can't remember who that was now.
Kendall.
Kendall. Yes, it was.
And Vauxhall as well.
I mean, that gave FCL a load of press coverage. It was on North West Tonight. It was everywhere. I mean, it might not be the most positive coverage, but again, it highlighted the club. Yeah.
And I think there was something when Bury came over. Did they get a last-minute equaliser this season? Was it Bury?
Yeah, no. Finished 1-1, I think.
And that went viral on Facebook as well. Again, showing the bowl, showing FC Isle of Man, showing non-league football, and it's a great reflection of the Isle of Man. I just love it. If we had more facilities, I'm going to take the opportunity now, Tony.
Go on.
Facilities like
3G?
Sports facilities. Yeah, I mean, I think the FA, the development officer, Andy Wadsworth, said for an island with participation as much as ours, we should have 4 or 5 3G pitches. We've got one full size and a small one down at St John's, haven't we?
Yeah.
And, you know, parents want organised sport more than ever. Very rare do you see kids kicking about on the road like we used to. And so organised sport is what they want. To have organised sport, you've got to have facilities. And I've been banging the drum through the Northwest Development Plan as well, that we lack facilities and there's no planning, no central planning from the government to do that. These are people that we live next to, they're MHKs and they're civil servants. I don't understand why someone isn't looking at it to say, if we're trying to grow our population by, I think it was 15,000, up to 100,000. If you do that, you've got to give them something better than where they're coming from. Significantly better, because you're going to put the RSC in between them and where they probably come from. So you've got to have something better to come to. Quiet life, low crime, that's all nice, but it's hard to measure. And the, you know, work-life balance. But facilities have got to be the central tenet to the future. We just haven't got enough of them. And hence why Ramsey Football Club are trying to row its own boat, because we've kind of given up.
Yeah. And it would go down really well, I think, because you've got young children coming through now, Simon, and you know, your young fellow plays for Peel, which is great to see, and the girls do whatever sport they want to do, football, hockey or dancing. So the facilities have got to be there for them, but unfortunately in football, the grass pitches can't take it, so we need astro pitches. I know you can say you've got the one at Ramsey School, Castletown School, you've got Peel as well, but it's not being selfish. It's a football pitch that you need, because, you know, when you look at the hockey pitches, they're not really meant for football. It's like playing on tarmac. Yeah. So we need another astro pitch, and I think there's land around that's government owned that could be converted. I fully understand the whole world is under pressure financially, not only businesses but also governments, and especially our government. But wouldn't it be nice for a business, the government, and maybe some other parties that could come together and just make it happen for sport on the Isle of Man? And let's face it, we punch way above our weight. When you look at Mark Cavendish, and he's a Manx born and bred, and other people as well, then to me, by word, it would be something nice. And I'm not just being towards football as well. You know, hockey have got a really luxurious set of pitches, with the other astro pitches, Ramsey, Peel and that, are hockey based, but they're not football based. And football's your biggest participated sport on the Isle of Man, when you've got nearly 4,000 people playing sport each time. And the government have been fantastic. I look at Ballafletcher, that's a government proper land and government building, but the clubs, Vagabonds, rugby, the cricket were up there, the football sides have all come together, and government must look at that and say, the business that runs that facility have done more than we expected. And I think it's everywhere. When I look at Ramsey, it's one of my favourite grounds on the island. But up north, You've got the school pitch. It'd be nice to have a bit of an Astro football pitch.
Well, those Astros are dangerous in my opinion, especially when they're wet, which is most of the time through the winter. But the game is played totally different on those Astros. I've got to put it into people's feet because it'll run out of play. That's not like a normal Saturday game. So you're doing training a little bit like football, but not like a Saturday. And it's really difficult to try and replicate what you're going to do on Saturday on an Astro where the ball runs out of play all the time. Yeah. And you're right, it's concrete with a bit of carpet on the top. And there is land out there. There's many ways they can fix this, by the way. Even another sports hall. More sports halls would help because that's good for touch as well. But getting into sports halls are you're waiting for dead man's shoes because obviously they get first refusal on the facility. So and that's only fair. But there seems to be a need. We talk about our children or next generation being overweight. Well, give organised sport what they need, and we'll do the rest.
Yeah, there's some great organisations over here, all sports, and that's what we've got to capitalise on because 99% of them are run by volunteers, and volunteers get their, how can I say, kick out of watching their club, their sport or whatever grow. And that's something can do. And as I say, I'm putting no blame on the government because I think the government are fantastic, but we need to go again. And it's going to be really difficult with the shortage of money that's around.
You've just mentioned the thing I was going to come to there, Tony, is volunteers. I think everyone, all three of us in here, have done our stint of coaching at some stage in football, at whatever level that may be at. And you're right, the volunteers are there to do this, to bring up that next generation. It's the facilities that are needed, and the demand is there as well. You know, there's been my involvement with Peel a couple of years ago. You know, we a huge junior pool of players to pull on, and oversubscribed at a lot of the age groups. And so the kids want to be involved in this.
I think that I'll talk about Ramsey. Ramsey are poor, very poor at junior level. We've got an under 5s and an under 18s and nothing in between. And there's a few reasons for that. Youthy and Ayr have got great junior setups, but it's an embarrassment from my perspective as chairman of the club that we haven't got that junior setup. One of the main reasons is facilities. Our pitch is low-lying, so we couldn't train on it. That we can train under 5s on it on a Saturday. They won't do any damage, but we can't train on it and have it in pristine condition for a Saturday. And you know, the FA gives us advice on how to look after your pitch, and they train us on, and our guys go and on those courses to understand it. And obviously we're advised by Jamie Arneil, who's a professional. He's works at Ramsey Golf Club as well, so he helps us out. But that lack of facilities really holds us back. And like you say, people, there's a big thing about pushing the women's game at the moment because it's really struggling, being honest. And it's such a shame to see, because I think there's a lot of young girls who want to play football, but not necessarily with boys. I mean, they do have that option, but I think if there was a pure girls setup, it would be a lot easier to keep them involved. Our club was buzzing when we had a women's setup. It was just a better atmosphere, and we'd love to have it back. But I'm going to be less PC than Tony, because he's got to play a political game. It is the government's fault. Full stop.
That's a bit harsh.
We'll leave that there. We've only got 23 minutes left, and we could go on all night.
Too controversial.
What I will say though, Simon, just to draw it to a close, is also mental health is massive now.
Yeah,
absolutely massive, and at times I just feel it's too much. But out of that, how much release do people get playing football? Mm-hmm. Even, you know, when you hear some of the stories now, it's young children as well. But it's not only that, adults as well have that same scenario. And you can't think of anything better than giving up your time and going down and helping with kids, even if you're just putting cones out, balls out, whatever. And it's the whole thing. You're keeping the kids off the street, as Johnny's just said. You're keeping them fit, you're keeping them active, you're giving them interest. And also,
it gives them an identity.
People skills is massive.
I was only talking to somebody about this yesterday. When someone acknowledges you when you're a junior coming through and they know your name, an adult man knows your name.
Chuffed.
Yeah. It's a chest puffy out moment, isn't it? Oh, they know my name. I am someone. And they're, not from your family. That's an identity, particularly in young men, is really important. Talking about mental health, I forgot to tell you, this is why my stupid moustache is here, because it's Movember, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's for men's mental health and men's cancer charity as well. So a lot of the Ramsey boys are doing it, so you'll get a picture at the month end with all our stupid moustaches.
You look quite nice with it, actually.
I've just had a picture from David Quirk, so I was just sent a picture of Onken's stadium at Onken and the underwater today. There must be, from this picture, I'm going to guess about 6 inches of water there around the perimeter at Onken as well. So, yeah, a lot of pictures in probably a bit of a state.
That could be quite interesting tomorrow, because I think the demolition derby's on, isn't it, up at Onken Park?
It will be, yeah.
That could be quite funny.
Okay, I must mention as well, Jonathan, you're here as well as representative of Plum Properties, sponsor of the Railway Cup. Oh, you have got the bag with the balls in there. So, Tony, I'll let you take over and go through with the sheet then.
Yeah, we'll get, we've bored people to death, I think, so we'll get this out of the way. Just to give you an idea, we've got the FA Cup draw next week, but Jogger kindly, Plum Properties have sponsored the Railway Cup, which is a massive competition because it's at the right time of the year. It's basically for the top 4 teams at the halfway stage of the season, and that was last week. And when I'm looking at the league tables, it was Ayr United who had played 12 for 30, Peel had played 12 for 28, Laxey were in third spot, played 12 for 24, and then Corinthians just sneaking in by 1 goal from Foxdale on 22 points. So in the bag, Jogger has got 1 to 4. It won't be hard to work out that they're in alphabetical order. So, Jogger, if you could please, the home tie for the first team is?
Number 1.
And number 1 is Ayr United.
Number 3.
And they will play Laxey. So that's Ayr United against Laxey.
Number 2.
Number 2 is a home tie for Corinthians. And the last one?
I'm hoping it's number 4. Number 4.
And number 4 is Peel. So the Plum Properties Railway Cup semi-final draw. Games to be played on Saturday the 7th of December. I think kick-off time is 1:15. Is Ayr home tie against Laxey and Corinthians against Peel. And I think you should throw this on Johnny, really, to say how does he see these semi-finals going? Seen he's sponsoring it?
I think it's easy. I think it's an Ayr Peel final.
Do you?
Yeah, I think Ayr have got that older heads, a sureness about them. Even when they were 3-0 down against us last week, although they were annoyed, there was no panic there. They just put out a workmanlike performance and got it back to 3-3. And that doggedness, especially the older players, they can have a bit more doggedness to grind out a result. And Laxey are a bit like us, but better. Laxey, quite a young team. When they're good, they're good. When they're bad, they're bad. So I think Ayr will go through there. Corinthians, Peel. I haven't seen Corinthians for a while, actually, so I might be doing them a disservice. I know they thumped us 3-0 at the start of the season. But Peel, I think they're nearly there. And actually, I think it's going to be an Ayr Peel title race as well. I think Peel technically are a better team than Ayr, but Ayr are more dogged. So I think Ayr will. There you go, tip for the league as well.
Okay.
2 for the price of 1 there, Tony.
See, you upset me now because you didn't... No,
I gave you a home tie.
Yeah, I'm not far away from you, to be honest with you, but I think Laxey are an informed team. Mm-hmm. When you look at Ayr United, they've conceded 7 goals now in the last 2 games, 4 against Moran. And when you look at the game against you, 3-3, but they conceded 3 there. So defensively, I just think they're not quite there. When I look at Corinthians against Peel, Corinthians beat Peel in the league. So it shows that it's there, and they did really well on that day. But I think the big difference is, and you shouldn't talk about one player being a team, but Thomas Brown at the moment, the form that he's in, you have to say that he's a 2-defender job. You have to have someone on him and someone backing him up because he's so quick and nippy. So you've got to keep him nice and tight. But Peel have got some really good young players in there, like Corinthians, and they're getting better every single game. So that with it being at Ballafletcher, it'll be it's a little bit bigger, I think, the pitch, and it might just help. But two great semi-finals, and worthy of any final is Ayr or Laxey or Corinthians or Peel, because normally we're not in that position, but these 4 teams I think are around each other.
It's a lot more competitive, isn't it, than it was last year and the year before.
Yeah, definitely.
And the final all goes to plan, obviously, if everything goes to schedule over the next 5 weeks or so, something like that. Boxing Day traditional final, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's a must. And, we've always spoke to Jonathan about this, because, people keep saying, why do you play it on Boxing Day? I think it's a massive day in Manx sport, in whatever sport. And it's probably one of my favourite days of the year, because you've had all Christmas Day, you've had the family activities, and then...
You've had enough of it by then.
Well, not really. I want to go and try my new jumper on and stuff like that. But
your new socks.
Yeah. But we go down there, and I've had it over quite a few years. Before it was 2011, when it was Astro Pitch, is going down. I remember one final with St Mary's. We were down there clearing the pitch, and I can't remember who they were playing now, whether it's Russian. And St Mary's were there cleaning the pitch because they wanted to play, and Russian weren't bothered. Anyway, we got the pitch cleared, and we got the game on, and yeah, it's a huge day. And then because it's English Premiership's on as well, you can watch them, have a couple of beers with your mates, catch up with how their day's gone. And then my favourite bit is to go home and have bubble squeak, all the leftovers from the Christmas Day. So that's me sort of for Boxing Day anyway.
All right, Tony. Jonathan, thank you very much for coming in and joining us to do the draw. Tony, just before we wrap things up as well, you wanted to mention about the Women's Floodlit Cup and the new format as well for that competition.
Yeah, basically the Women's Floodlit Cup, as Jonathan's just said, that we unfortunately, in the women's game, it's growing in the UK, but it's not over here. So we sort of sat down and we said, let's just have a look at it and just see what we can do. So what we've done with the Floodlit Cup is we've made it 7-a-side. So it's 2 half pitches. There's 9 teams in it. Corinthians are in it and Peel are in it, but no Ireland players are allowed to play for them. So that means that, the players who sort of maybe miss out or younger can come in and play, and it just equals it all up. And we spoke to all the clubs about this, and they said, yes, we like that idea, let's give it a go. But then we have to cater for Corinthians and Peel's Ireland players and their teams. So what we're going to do, and that game, first game will be on next week, is Peel and Corinthians will have a 2-legged final. And the aggregate score, if it's after 90 minutes of the second game, still square, we go into 30 minutes of extra time, still square, we go into penalties. So they'll be the Floodlit champions. We discussed it with the other clubs, and they were happy to stay out the 11-a-side, so it ticks the box for them. And then the 7-a-side, it's really good because we've got like Maloo with 2 teams, we've got Uni Mills in there, we've also got Onken with 2 teams, and we've got Castletown in as well. So it's looked good, and then we'll go back to the grass just after the new year. So at the moment it looks okay, but our main game is to increase the participation. It's going to be very difficult to level it up because we've got 2 elite teams. So the Alaman FA behind the scenes are working on trying to get some real top games for the Ireland women's team, which will involve some of the other clubs who aren't playing, or some of the players who aren't playing for Corinthians and Peel, and just see if we can turn the corner. We need to turn the corner because a massive amount of girls coming up, but we don't want this drop-off that we're seeing, and it's not just in men's football, it's women's football as well. So we can only try, Simon, and hopefully it'll work.
So anyone listening who themselves, or maybe their partner, daughter, granddaughter, niece, whatever it might be, who's interested in getting involved with women's football, what's the best entry point for them to get involved?
Contact the FA. There were interviews this week for the new Women's Development Officer. Hopefully the interviews were Thursday, so hopefully we have a new candidate. So we'll wait and see on that one. But then it's important to, if you're young, is to find a club that you're happy with. And when you think of it, Corinthians are one of the best women's teams going, but no junior women's setup. They're sort of young players play mixed football, and it's not out of choice. They would rather play sort of 15, 16s women's games, but you can't play senior football at that. We've asked the English FA if they'll address that situation. They can't, safeguarding everything else, which we understand. So, yeah, that's your point. But, you know, whoever the new person is, or there's Lewis Qualtrough, Simon Elson in the FA, have bags of experience, Simon Alsterbury as well, know where to point you. And this is the turn of it. You know, we want 25 to be the big change of women's football and both basically improve men's football as well. That's what we're after.
All right, Tony, thank you very much. Jonathan as well, thank you for joining us. We look forward to those Railway Cup semi-finals on the 7th of December. I'm right in saying that, aren't I? And just to recap that draw, it's Ayr United against Laxey and Corinthians against Peel. So that's pretty much it for Saturday Sport Classified this week. It was very much a weather-affected Saturday for sport here on the Isle of Man. No rugby, 4 fixtures in hockey, and just the 2 in local football. Thanks to Ben Cunningham as well, who joined us earlier on to look at hockey. Dave Christian back on the programme. Hopefully next week we'll get some rugby action, and don't forget this programme available for you to listen to as a podcast very shortly. Just head over to manxradio.com. You'll find it all in the Manx Sportscast section.